Hello, everybody. Meteorologist Noah Bergren here. It's just after 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. Hope you've had a great day out there so far. We've just got wonderful weather coming into Central Florida today. You see lots of sunshine. Things are crisp, clear out there. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Fox Local. Hope you've had a great day out there for today. Let me take you out to the radar currently, and I'll show you what's cooking out there. And the good news is we don't have really anything cooking. Things are nice, dry, calm, and quiet. We don't really have much to discuss. In fact, you can see on the radar right now, things are good. There's nothing across Central Florida or the entire state. Things are crystal clear out there right now. And in terms of the cloud cover, we're seeing just a few clouds today coming in from the northeast. Now, this is going to be significant for tomorrow and Wednesday because notice these clouds. You see they're thin, and the leading edge of them is about right here. We've got a little bit of a northeast flow developing. And tomorrow, that's going to help bring back more clouds and possibly a few rain showers. And the reason why is from this up here. This is what's left over of our nor'easter right here. And look at the very thick veil of clouds that's pushing to the southwest. That will be here tomorrow, and we're getting a little bit of that enhancement today into eastern Florida. This stuff up here could give a few sprinkles and a few showers for us tomorrow. Hello, everybody. Facebook, YouTube, Fox Local. I'm having a tough time getting my feed up here on my phone. Why, I don't know. I'm going to try to reload that so I can share this. I can't get an internet signal right now. But I hope you've had a great day so far. It is so nice outside. It was cool this morning. It's going to be cool again tonight. Not like super chilly compared to average, but definitely a little bit below average. I can't get on my comments here, so I'll see if I can load this for you in a second. But we have lots to talk about, and in fact, I want to start you tonight with what's going on nationally because, at least for us right here, there's nothing going on, right? You see there's pretty calm, clear weather. But I bring you out nationally, and there's a little bit of a front up here, a little low pressure in Minnesota with some rain, but there's a big storm out in California, and that big storm is going to actually be an impact for us heading into the weekend, into early next week. Now, we're not talking about big severe weather here. We're just talking about a few showers, maybe some storms. I don't really think there's going to be any notable severe weather threat here early next week. There probably at the most be the panhandle of Florida. But there will be the first fall episode of severe weather from that over the next couple of days, especially Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday. And that could give us a big, and I mean big, drop in the humidity as we head into next week. Now, I want to show you about what's been going on out in the west because it's been pretty rare, to say the least. I was watching a friend of mine last night who works out here. There's a tornado warning last night. Let me see if I can loop this over the past. Let's just do 12 hours. Bring you back here. Let's see if there's a loop. You see there, that yellow box, that's severe thunderstorm warnings that were issued from overnight into tomorrow, this morning. There's actually a couple of tornado warnings last night as this coastal storm in front came in. And for more on this and what it means for our potential weather, I want to bring in meteorologist Jessica Dobson and Brooks Garner, who are going to go through this California storm, which you can see there actually is some snow, believe it or not, in the Mountain West. And they're going to talk to you more about this and what it means for us over the next couple of days.
Well, today we're in California, and you may wonder, well, why are these Florida meteorologists looking at California?
Because we have some very interesting weather. There's a really interesting pattern setting up that's a little ahead of schedule.
Yeah, a winter storm, and a big one at that. These typically start churning here in the Pacific, and especially Southern California, as we head toward Christmas. But here we are before Thanksgiving, before Halloween for that matter, and there's a massive storm, and there's a problem. This is putting down some major rain.
Yeah, and it's over areas where we have a burn scar. So that means, essentially what that means is the flooding risk is going to exponentially increase. And they've actually issued some evacuations across sections of Southern California, and it's where the Pacific Palisades fire was taking place a little over a year ago now.
Yeah, so we go from a burning threat to now, ironically, a rain threat that could produce debris flows and mudslides. So it's a really big problem, and in the mountains of California, the Sierra Nevada could get 14 to 24 inches of snow as this thing rolls through. But the reason we're tracking it isn't to gawk at the bad weather happening on the West Coast. It's because as this tracks eastward, and it will track across the whole country, it's going to leave bad weather in its wake wherever it goes, starting off with snow, which is going to affect travel in the Intermountain West.
Yeah, they've actually already picked up quite a bit of snow, and they're forecast to get now an additional 1.5 feet or so in some places. But as it works its way across parts of the Central Plains, the Midwest, it could bring the potential of severe weather season, which could spark what will likely be the fall severe weather season.
That's right. So you've heard of Tornado Alley. That typically is associated with the springtime, right? May and June. Well, there's something called the fall tornado season that can happen across parts of the Midwest and especially the Mid-South. And the first bout of that will come from the system crossing the country, bringing a severe weather threat Saturday to a very notorious part of the country.
Yeah, we're talking areas of eastern Oklahoma to, say, Alabama, Arkansas, northern Louisiana, which are areas notorious for seeing, especially during the springtime, a lot of really bad tornadoes. That's where we have a lot in the way of tornado risk through that section of the country. But we're going to be potentially seeing that as we get closer towards the weekend across, this time of year.
Yeah, and this is going to be over Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Piney Woods of Texas. Even the storm chasers, the people that are paid to chase tornadoes, they're getting their little spidey senses about them, talking about, hey, we're going to be chasing something. We're going to kick off this fall weather tornado season a little bit early with this system coming across. But we've got to watch it here because eventually it will cross the country, and by Monday, we may be facing a storm threat here.
Yeah, that just goes to show how powerful this kind of glob of energy is going to be as it works its way across the country, and that could give us just enough energy to create the potential of a couple of isolated strong to maybe even severe storms. So that will be something we have to watch closely as we head into Monday, because just enough ingredients could be in place for that to take place.
But overall, the dry season is here. The humidity is gone. So gone are those afternoon thunderstorms we see every day at 3 o'clock thanks to the sea breeze. But we'll have to watch fronts like this, Pacific fronts, for the possibility of severe weather. If you remember the March 10th tornado, it was kind of a similar setup with a Pacific system that came in.
Yeah, it can sneak up on you too, and just like that setup kind of did. We weren't really progged for anything in terms of severe weather outlook, but it'll be something we have to watch closely for as we head to Monday.
Yeah, by progged you mean prognosticated, forecasted for.
Exactly.
Weather jargon, it slips out. But no one knows what we're talking about, right, Noah?
Good stuff there from Brooks and Jess, and we'll talk more about that rain and storm threat for Sunday and Monday coming up in a few minutes. But for right now, we're going to take a quick 2-minute break here on Fox Local, YouTube, and Facebook. And when I come back, we'll talk some tropics for you. Could have Melissa over the next few days. Stay with us.
Well, today we're in California, and you may wonder, well, why are these Florida meteorologists looking at California?
Because we have some very interesting weather. There's a really interesting pattern setting up that's a little ahead of schedule.
Yeah, a winter storm, and a big one at that. These typically start churning here in the Pacific and especially Southern California as we head toward Christmas. But here we are before Thanksgiving, before Halloween for that matter, and there's a massive storm, and there's a problem. Today we're in California, and you may wonder, well, why are these Florida meteorologists looking at California?
Because we have some...
All right, we are back there. Hello, hello, hello. How is everybody doing? It is a little bit after 3:10 on a Monday. Speaking of which, it's not Monday, it's Tuesday. Just seeing if you're listening. So cool stuff there from Brooks and Jess. And it's oftentimes in fall and winter where those storms that enter California, where it's interesting. I had a professor in Penn State who said this, that normally when those storms enter the U.S., they exit at the same latitude, which is very interesting because if you go back here and look at the U.S. radar, I had a synoptic meteorology professor, which means the weather on large and medium scales. When these storms enter the west coast, they exit the east coast at the same latitude, meaning this one's entering right here. Clear that off. This storm is entering right here, so then this one's going to exit over here, which actually is really not that far off. I mean, it might exit a little bit. It's going to be a parent low that forms up in Canada, but definitely could give us some weather as we go into Sunday night and Monday of next week. All right, so let me know where you're watching from. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Fox Local. Love to hear from you guys. Hope everybody is doing good. We do have a couple of comments checking in. Hello from William. Hello, Omaria. Desiree, hello. Fran from Tampa. What's going on, Fran from Tampa? We're on YouTube and Facebook as well, so let me know where you're checking in from. We would love to hear from you. William says hello. Hello, William. Just looking through some of your comments here. Hello on YouTube. We got a couple of people on YouTube. Hope you're doing good out there for today. And you can see right now the Fran Hayes from Tampa. Speaking of Tampa, hello, Fran. Hope you're doing good today. Fran says hello from Tampa. Well, the low this morning in Tampa was actually pretty chilly. It was just 68 this morning, Fran, in Tampa. And you go up to the north, up by Citrus County, Denellen, those areas, it really cooled off really fast. And I mean, it was only almost in the 40s again today. You see 53 was the low this morning in Tallahassee, 61 Jacksonville, 58 in Ocala, 65 this morning in Orlando. But definitely you could tell where the three seasons are across the state because it was cooler to the north and warmer to the south. Okay, so we talked about the here and now. We talked about the storm out west. A couple of other things I want to bring to your attention. First, we do have some activity in the tropics to talk about, and I'm going to pull this up for you here now so we can talk about that. See if I can get this pulled up for you here. So let me show you, and then we're going to talk about the rainy season after the next break. Hello from Claremont. Alex, how are you? Alex from Claremont. What's going on, man? How are you? How are you? So right now we are looking at Lorenzo out in the Atlantic. Here's Lorenzo as the 11 a.m. advisory. It's got winds of 45 miles an hour. It kind of looks like a ham sandwich of nothing out here. It's moving northwest at 15. Pressure just above 1,000 millibars. Remember, lower pressure, stronger storm, higher winds. There's the cone, and it's going to drift to the north and the northeast to then lose its tropical characteristics by the weekend. But you notice on the spaghetti modeling, it's pretty clear how there's going to be the remnants do this funky little where they go north, northeast, and then hook back around like that. But notice how the lines get fewer over here because most of them fall apart. I suppose there's a small chance that this could reform somewhere over here before it gets picked back up like that. But definitely would be a funky track to look at for Lorenzo. So Lorenzo is really not a concern to anybody, which means we now have Melissa, Nestor, and Olga Pablo up next. But Melissa is going to be a name I think we're going to hear a lot next week. Now, what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about this tropical wave off the coast of Africa, which, interestingly, today looks pretty robust on the satellite. It's right there in that black circle. Now, remember what a tropical wave is. It's an area of showers and thunderstorms over the water. Oftentimes in the news, you might hear news outlets and national media and the tropical wave. There's dozens of tropical waves. Those should not be in the headlines just because of the tropical wave. Not all tropical waves develop. Just to get that disclaimer out of the way. Hello, Mom. How are you? Hello, Alex. Hello, Ms. Blunt. How are you? So the thing about this tropical wave is it's a little bit late in the year to see a tropical wave come off of the African coast and track this far south in the Atlantic. Generally, you see this in late August, September. Late July to like maybe the end of September. Generally, that season for that ends a couple weeks ago, and then all the focus turns out over here for tropical activity, with the rare occasion of something here in October. But to see something here this late in the year, it's uncommon. Is it unprecedented? No. But what we're going to watch is what does that do once it gets past the islands being the Windward Islands here, about Monday of next week. So this is going to just drift west, this tropical wave. It's going to go like this. And then once it's past these islands, it's a really interesting question. Is this going to track southwest into Central America, fall apart, and do nothing? Is this going to form into a storm right here, get picked up by a cold front at the end of next week, and get, again, pushed east of Florida? Or is this going to just sneak its way into the Western Caribbean and then possibly be a threat to Florida? All of which I would say are possible. And I know that sounds like, oh, come on, I could do your job as a weatherman. You don't know what you just gave me 3 options of what could happen. Nothing, something, or a lot. I'm going to break down which is more likely than not coming up after we take a break. But once this is past the islands, we're definitely going to have to watch. Does it stay weak and go into Central America like the AI models show? A lot of the old physics-based models, the European says we could have a big system in the Western Caribbean the end of next week. Or does it get picked up and pushed out to sea pretty quick next weekend? But again, it's this tropical wave here. It's going to move west. It's not going to do anything when it's in this area for the next few days. But this is definitely going to be one that we have to watch here going forward. So for those of you on Fox Local, you're about to see a break coming up in about 27 seconds. So I'm going to keep talking as we're on Facebook and YouTube. But those of you on our Fox Local stream or our website or our app, you'll see a break, and I'm going to get cut off here at 3:20 coming up in a few seconds. So I'm just going to keep talking, and I'll re-engage with you when you come back at 3:22. Hello from Titusville, Hope Brown. How are you? How are you? If anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, please let me know where you're watching from. Things are very, very nice out there today. In fact, the humidity feels oh so nice. Oh so nice. So Hope, hello. How are you? Hope Brown from Titusville. Appreciate you checking in today on Facebook. See a few of you on YouTube there as well. If you have any questions, comments, concerns. So let's talk about that tropical wave, shall we? So here is the the GFS model, excuse me. And I want you to notice right here, doesn't look like much. Now let me turn this off, this labeling I had from last night. So this is what we call the vorticity plot. So this is just the spin in the atmosphere. Notice it may look like little, but this is actually quite significant. So this is the model picking up right here. That's our tropical wave, where you see those little specks of yellow and red. And I want you to watch this as it tracks to the west, and note the time up here at the top of your screen over the next few days. So here we go. Here it comes. And you can kind of see a little bit of spinach in here too. This is the tropical wave by Friday. So here we go, here we go. Here it is by Sunday. Interesting, you see it's got a little bit of curvature to it. I had a tropical meteorology professor at Penn State would always say, once you see the vorticity here have a C, that's a sign that this is going to be a system that develops at some point, you know. And these are practices that have been used by humans long before we had AI models and all these advanced models. And oftentimes you'd be surprised, these old adages that the wisdom and the more senior folks of our meteorological field are often better than still these models today. So anyway, on that said, you see a little bit of, because the reason why it's curved like that is because you've got some spin in here in the low levels of the atmosphere. This is up at a loft of 20,000 feet, but you can kind of see it spin there. You see a little twist. This is the energy. This is the tropical wave. Now, it gets to about the islands, and you can see it kind of fades briefly. But right here, this is that tropical wave by Monday of next week. Then we will watch, because I'll take you out further now. So here we go into next Wednesday, and then the tropical wave is sitting right here. Here it is. Boom, right there. Then we're going to say, okay, what's this thing going to do? Is this going to form into a big hurricane? Possible. Is this just going to keep going west, this tropical wave into Central America, and develop at the 11th hour here before it hits land, and then be a non-factor for Florida or the Atlantic? That's possible. Now, there might be a little bit of bias here with the GFS. See how it generates all this spin in the Caribbean. But what happens is the middle and end of next week, you get this spin that forms, and then boom, you're off to the races with what would be Hurricane Melissa next weekend. This would be right here, Melissa. Right there. Now, the question will be, what if, and I hate doing this in weather, and I'm kind of talking on both sides of my mouth, because historically I tell myself, I hate when I hear weather people say, if you have to say if more than twice, you shouldn't be given the forecast. But I'm going to do it this time because it's interesting. If this thing forms in the Caribbean into a named storm the end of next week, which unless something freakily gets named out over here again, it's going to be Melissa. If this thing forms, and if it survives for the end of next week into next weekend, it could get interesting because there's going to be high pressure out over here that seems pretty likely in the models, and high pressure out over here where it could do something interesting. And a lot of the ensembles, even the Euro model is showing this, where this hypothetical Melissa could get trapped and just sit down here and spin and elongate and just sit and move and go back and this way or this way. Just kind of get lost in the Caribbean because there's no real dominant steering flow. Because if there's a high over here, this is next weekend, and a high over here, remember which way high is moving. The air is going clockwise around high pressure, like this. So if you've got wind going this way here and wind going this way here, that flow on either side of the hurricane kind of cancels out. So what you get is just a hurricane that just sits there. And notice, that's what the model says. It just sits here and spins. That's possible, and that's why this is really going to be an interesting forecast if this thing forms, because you potentially have a pretty high amount of opposing flow here late month, which is what happens in late October, which is why if you look at all the hurricanes in late October, there's a lot of funky and erratic tracks and a lot that stall in the Caribbean because the steering kind of collapses. And it'll be a question of, does it get forced west, or does it get picked up north, or does it scoot east of Florida if it forms? GFS is a little bit more concerning for Florida, where it kind of sits here. I'm not going to take you out the length of the models. This is way beyond where I want to speculate, scare anybody. It would probably end up a threat for Florida, but that's just one of several models. In fact, let me show you here the Canadian weather model. We'll take a look at this now here. Take a look at this now here. I'll bring you over here. So here's the Canadian model, which notice this is Monday of next week. Look over here. This is Tropical Storm Melissa by St. Lucia on Monday. So as soon as Monday, we'll have a blob on the Hurricane Center site probably as soon as tonight. There's no yellow blob out here for Melissa. There should be probably tonight, if not tonight, tomorrow. But by Monday, there could be tropical storm or depression here, Melissa. And then the Canadian says it goes south to Puerto Rico. This is Monday night next week. Goes towards Haiti in the Dominican Republic as a developing hurricane next Tuesday night, so a week from today. And then it crosses the islands, and it kind of gets ripped apart because of the track over the islands. But you can see how it kind of just slowly sits there. And then south of the Keys next weekend, you've got a tropical system. Interesting. Now, last night, this is last night's run of the model. Notice there's Melissa, a lot stronger. It had a hurricane before the islands on Monday. Split between Puerto Rico and Haiti, and then it goes through the Bahamas as a hurricane, but notice it misses Florida to the east. So that's possible too. Now here's the European ensembles. So basically a bunch of different versions of the Euro, and notice how there's kind of like several camps of the data here. There's a camp of scenarios that lift this north and east of Florida pretty quickly. Then there's a camp of models that are pretty strong hurricanes that just sit down there in the Caribbean, and again, where it would go is, could it sit there for days? Does it get lifted towards Florida? Who knows? Here's the AI Euro model, and notice again, There's that signal down there. So this is a bunch of different versions of the AI Euro model on one image. So each of these little circles, those are different versions of the AI Euro showing where there could be a hurricane or a tropical system. And this is next weekend. And notice there's a camp of scenarios out over here on the east that lift this north of Florida pretty quick. And then there's a camp that are slower, stronger developing, that sit in the Caribbean and wait for it to get picked up, and then could enter the Gulf and be more of a threat to Florida. There's also, not shown on here, some models that just kill this off into Central America if it tracks too far south. But the point is, if you'll I'll just scrub this back and forth, look at all the models that have strong hurricanes. It's the AI Euro, there's the regular old Euro, there's our, this is Melissa, there's several that would be a threat to Florida, several that would not be. Here's the Canadian model. And notice they all have something there. So that's why I say this is definitely not a internet hype storm potential. There's definitely something to track for us to be mindful of there, but we're way early in the game. There's nothing to be worried about or worked up yet. But I've showed this graphic a few times, and after this, I think we're going to be good in Florida, barring something freakish in November. It's only happened, I think. I'm going to make a graphic tonight for the news, but there's been no hurricanes or anything in the Gulf or the Caribbean. That does not happen often. So we'll knock on wood, it stays that way after what we went through last year in Florida so far this year. But you just look at this graphic, and it does beg the question, what, if anything, is going to come there before the end of this season. But we'll definitely keep an eye on it. What's the humidity today? 69, Lauren. A little lower than that over by where you are on the West Coast. But definitely lower humidity. I'm sure you've noticed it feels really, really nice out there. We're coming over from Scotland. Average temps in Scotland from here in November, Kevin. Low 80s for highs in November. Mid to high 70s to low 80s for highs. Very nice here generally in November. All right, so we've only got a few seconds left, and I've got a boogie. Thank you, all of you, for watching us on Fox Local, YouTube, and Facebook. Really appreciate all of you taking a few minutes of your time to sit with us here. I'll see you coming up tonight on the news at 5, 6, 8, 10, and 11. We'll talk much more on the news, the weather, and this potential tropical system next week. So have a good day, everybody. Appreciate you watching.